Hey, I'm Hunt, and this is Hunt on LSU, your channel for LSU Fighting Tiger football talk. Enjoy the video. We want you to leave a comment below, hit that like button, and subscribe right below the video. Enjoy. Do want to say that I do see the humor in Thibodaux, Louisiana, taking over the football world for a weekend every June. That to me is humorous. But the Manning Passing Academy has become that. You've got a who's who of college football quarterbacks that show up and participate. There are counselors, and you get a lot of media members and a lot of attention because the Manning family is what the Manning family is. And if you were in Thibodaux this weekend, you saw Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning and Cade Klubnik from Clemson and Dylan Gabriel from Oklahoma, Jackson Dart and Jalen Milroe from Ole Miss and Bama, Riley Leonard, who now of Notre Dame, came down. Will Rogers was there. Hudson Card, who went from Texas to Purdue, was there. Certainly Garrett Nussmeier was there. Like, it's just Connor Wigman from Texas A&M was there. Like, it's a who's who of the college football quarterbacking world, and those guys are there to show off a little bit in the Friday Night Lights portion of it, and certainly to counsel some high school and young quarterbacks as well. And I was looking for someone to get on to talk about it and struck out a little bit today. But I did see this on Twitter from Taylor McHargue. Taylor McHargue played quarterback at Rice. He now works for CBS and 247. And he was down at the Manning Passing Academy, and he was asked for a little digital segment here that they do on CBS to talk about the standouts from the Manning Passing Academy, and this was his first takeaway from being down in Thibodaux.
From the event,
Garrett Nussmeier was the guy that just jumped out from LSU, and it was all the throws. He was a guy that you obviously knew had a lot of arm talent and a lot of arm strength, but there was one right out of the gate where they throw that field comeback that anybody that's played the position knows that's one of the hardest throws in college football. He rips it to that field sideline, and just from there, every one of his throws, I thought for LSU fans, that's somebody that, certainly looked to me like somebody to be excited about because his arm talent was real.
And that's interesting because when I think about Garrett Nussmeier, I'm not sure the first thing that comes to mind is, holy cow, what a cannon. Like, that's what I think of when I think of Zach Mettenberger. That's what I think of when I think of Jamarcus Russell. That's what I think of when I think of some of the other. Look, last year in Knoxville, you had a cannon of an arm in Joe Milton, but not exactly the most efficient quarterback you've ever seen. But that's interesting that Taylor McHargue says that about Garrett Nussmeier. I am attempting to temper my expectation for LSU's offense a little bit this year, because I think when you just assume that a Heisman Trophy winner and 2 first-round picks walk out the door and the next guys are just going to pick up right where they left off, it feels like that expectation is going to breed some disappointment. I'm trying to avoid that a little bit, one, for my own self personally, and two, when I speak to you, the listener, about this LSU offense coming up in 2024. But I do realize that we have some experience with this a couple of years ago when Burrow walked out the door and he was gone, and then all of a sudden you came back in 2020 and Jamar Chase was not with you and Justin Jefferson was not with you. So in that way, it's a little bit similar. Now, there's not a global pandemic, but it's a situation where Myles Brennan was a seasoned quarterback who hadn't played a ton. Garrett Nussmeier is a seasoned quarterback who hasn't played a ton. And you're basically bringing up your third wide receiver. It was Terrace Marshall then in 2020. It's Kyron Lacy now to kind of become your go-to guy. And you hand the keys over with the same offensive coordinator. And I use air quotes there. We know that Ensminger was there, and yes, that's correct. Mike Denbrock is gone, but Joe Sloan was the quarterback's coach, and he was the offensive coordinator for the bowl game, and there are some similarities there. It's not a brand new system or a brand new set of eyes. And LSU got off to a pretty good start throwing the ball before Myles Brennan got hurt. Now, the game against Mississippi State was weird because you fell behind and you were trying to catch up and things weren't great in the first half, and I'm not here to tell you Myles Brennan lit it up in that game against Mississippi State. But he did play really well against Vanderbilt, and he really played awesome under those ridiculous circumstances against Missouri. And LSU's offense was really good at throwing the ball until Myles Brennan got hurt. And then you had Finley and you had Johnson, and things got wobbly down there towards the end. But there is a little bit of similarity here with different characters involved. And so as I start to mold my thoughts and think about how I feel about this LSU offense moving forward, I don't feel like you're limited in any way with Garrett Nussmeier. Now, you're not as versatile as you were with Jaden Daniels because he can't run like that. But he is a good athlete. He can move a little bit. It's not like he can't make some of the throws that are required. We're just listening to Taylor McHargue tell you how noticeable his arm strength was with the best quarterbacks in the country down in Thibodeau. I feel like LSU can kind of do whatever they want offensively. Question is, can they be bordering on the efficiency that we saw the majority of last year? And I think, honestly, as I look at it, that is going to depend more so on the offensive line's ability to run the ball than it is what Garrett Nussmeier can and can't do. I think when put in advantageous situations, based on down and distance, play call, and the weapons that he's got around him, I think Garrett Nussmeier will do a really good job. I think he'll play great. But if you don't run it well enough, and some of those receivers don't quite develop the way that you thought after Lacey, that's where you could be limited. It's not in Garrett Nussmeier that I think LSU's offense could be limited. In fact, the opposite. I think he gives them the ability, based on his maturity, his understanding of the game, and the talent that he has, he can do whatever that you need him to do. It's the variables around him that I think make this most interesting. And that is the antithesis of what you would think replacing a Heisman winner. You would think that would be the big question. Who replaces him? I don't think that's the big question. I think the big question more so is, what do the other guys do? And their level of play will then indicate how LSU's offense will operate in terms of its efficiency. Does that make sense? Like, it's not how well does Nussmeier fill in for Jaden Daniels. Can they run the ball? Do these wide receivers grow up? Because 13 is not going to be the problem. He's going to be part of the solution when this thing starts, assuming everything else happens around him. So I'm thrilled with that report from Taylor McHargue. Again, we've heard great reports from the Manning Passing Academy about guys previously, and sometimes that stuff doesn't necessarily pan out. What they were doing was quite literally an entertainment spectacle. They go out there on Friday and wing it around and try to throw it at targets and throw the long ball and throw it into buckets, and like it's not a 7-on-7 or certainly not a scrimmage. It's entertainment, and Garrett Nussmeier obviously passed that eye test, so I think that's a pretty good thing for the LSU quarterback, and we'll certainly get ready to talk more about this LSU football program as we move forward now that we're in July. If you're looking for our LSU football content, you can always find it on YouTube at Hunt on LSU. LSU football recruiting and just normal talk. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. All of our content right there on our YouTube channel. Appreciate it if you'd subscribe up to it and get it right to your homepage there on YouTube. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.